The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Chasing Purpose. I'm your host, Kathleen Conner, and if this is your first time here today, I'm really glad you found your way in, and I hope you stay a while. If you've been here before, well, welcome back. We have a lot to talk about today. Last week I was sick, as you know, and I'm still fighting this little bit of a cold and cough. So if I break out in one, I hope that you can bear with me. I have my water next to me to make sure I can stay hydrated. So anyway, today we're talking about something that most everybody experiences and most no one ever admits to. And it's exhausting. It's how we make decisions. It's that stretch of time when you're standing there with all of the tools that we have and even some fun ones that we even pick up at toy stores, such as Crazy Eights and Rochambeau and Heads and Tails of a Coin, to try to help us make decisions, to look at viable options that we may have. We may have a decision to make, whether to stay or go in a relationship, whether to stay or go in a job. Those are things that we have to decide on. And we often try to gather data and facts and opinions and personal opinions from people that we love and we care about and people we work with that really just delay and procrastinate our decision-making process. So sometimes we just have to take that crazy 8-ball and toss it around with whatever question we have. So sometimes it is taking that 8-ball and saying, do I really want to stay with this job? And what's the consequence if I do? And the hardest part is that people believe that the hardest decision is choosing the decision. It's really not. Imagine that you're just kind of fixing and choosing between either this, A or B, or Z or D, type things, and what direction to pick in a decision. Do you think that the relief is the decision itself? Well, it can cause a lot of anxiety to get to that point, that's for sure. And when we actually resolve ourselves to decision, the real work happens. It's not the decision itself, it's the process afterwards and what we have to do after we make the decision, the doors we have to cross, the thresholds we have to move through, those things that we have to do. That's the reality of it. So the hardest part is living, and not with the decision itself. It's living with what comes after. It's long enough to sit in the discomfort to get to the other side of whatever we're deciding to do. So we tend to look for steps. And I'll go back to the thing of the heads or tails. There is no wrong answer in heads or tails. Once you make the decision, or once the coin lands on the ground or in your hand and you flip it over onto your wrist, that's the decision. And you just have to go with it. Whether you're on offense or defense, you have to move forward. So often I look at things and I think about all the times that I've been around people that either have been good decision makers or bad decision makers. And I had a college roommate, and I was fortunate enough to love her. And I stayed with her the whole time that I was in college, other than our last year when she moved out to live with a boyfriend. And she was great. Her name was Meg. And in those days, you didn't know a lot about your college roommate until you arrived the first day at the dorm. And Meg and I had a lot in common as far as where we grew up and how we were raised. We were both a big family, as I was one of 7 and she was one of 8. So we had a lot of fun and a lot of noise in our lives. Meg was different than I in a lot of ways as well. She was a scientist. I was not. She loved everything that had to do with beakers and labs and lab coats. And I often called her Beaker because of the character on the Muppets that we were raised with. And she always either had her safety glasses on or most of the time was looking for them. I loved that about her. She was unorganized, but yet very, very focused on the science of things. And she loved that. She was going to be a marine biologist, and she wanted to live in a remote part of the main border of Canada to do her research and her work there. And she was very much an introvert, and I was very much an extrovert. So we pulled that out of each other, and we learned a lot with each other. But one of the things that Meg taught me, and I learned it after we went to college, was that she wasn't always the best at making decisions. Everything kind of fell onto me, whether it was because of my personality or just driving to move or to get something done. And it could be anything. It could be what we were eating that night, where we were studying, what party we were going to, what we were drinking, whether we would stay in or go out, those types of things, whose car we would drive, what clothes we would wear, movie we were going to choose, and those types of things. We ended up always coming to some kind of solution, mostly because of me, but Meg often always gave me the I don't knows. And that drove me crazy at the time. And when it first started to happen, it drove me even more crazy because I wasn't used to her and I wasn't used to her patterns. Through the years, though, I got to know her and I got to know what drove those things. And it wasn't that she couldn't make a decision. She just really didn't want to disappoint people. She didn't want to disappoint me, and she didn't want to make the wrong decision. So whenever it was pizza, Chinese, or anything else that we had to choose from, she always gave me the shrug of the shoulders. I don't know. I don't care. You choose. And so I did. And when the food arrived or wherever we went and whatever we did for activities that night or wherever we studied, she went along with it. But afterwards or during the time, she was like, oh, I don't really enjoy this. I don't really enjoy the food. This isn't what I wanted to do tonight. This isn't where I wanted to be. And so we got talking about why those things were so hard for her to say. And it was because, one, she was in a big family, and so was I. And acknowledgement and having a voice in a big family was often tough. And being the youngest, the both of us were. And she was much more introverted than I was. So that was also a double edge for her as well. But it was often about just not having the courage to make the decision, and that it would be wrong if she chose the wrong thing and people would be disappointed. And I realize now through my studies and through my clients and talking about decision making and how people make decisions and their lack of decisions, that it's not about the right decision. It's about making a decision and making it right for us. And I think that's so important. I heard that quote and I thought it was so powerful. So again, it's not about making the right decision. It's about making the decision right for us. And I thought it was so powerful. So let's stick with that. So time in making decision makes you pause and evaluate the circumstances, that's for sure. And Meg often made me realize that it was okay to gather facts, be the scientists, weigh the options, make sure that the formula came out correctly and not rush through things, and make sure that people and facts were always there. But I also realized with living with Meg as long as I did and experiencing her and her quirkiness and as well as mine as through the time we spent together, that I wanted to make sure that when I had a child, that I wanted him or her at the time when I was pregnant to be a good decision maker. And I thought about what would it take to be a good decision maker. And I took classes, of course, as a professional, as an executive. We all take classes. We go to certain certifications and certain leadership classes and those types of things. And one of the things I learned through my professional career prior to my coaching profession now was that there were only three things that I personally needed to make a decision in professional decision, and that was time, money, and people. And so I often weighed those things. Whenever I have to make a decision, it was how much time is it going to take me? So I evaluated that. I evaluated how much money it was going to take me and in what the cost of the decision or not making the decision was. And I also weighed the fact of people. Did I need others to help with the decision or to move the decision or to help me progress around whatever decision I made? So those were things that I looked for. And when I was pregnant with my son, I took a parenting class, and I've talked about that before. And one of the things they talked about with kids is that when you want them to make decisions, and I wanted my son to be a great decision maker, and thank goodness he is. He's only 13, but he knows how to make decisions, and he seems to have a great head on his shoulders. So I'm proud of him for this. But one of the things that I taught him through the parenting class was that it was important as a parent, when we gave children options to make a decision, that we only gave them two, or we limited the options for them. So when my son wanted to have dinner, and some parents just give them the menu and say, what do you want? or have the options at the house and say, what do you want for dinner? And the child says, I don't know, I don't care, I don't have a preference, those types of things. It would be frustrating. And it is frustrating, whether it's a roommate or a child or someone or a coworker or someone you deal with on a regular basis or not. So the part of the teaching in the parenting class was that you only give your children two options, and those options are ones that you're happy with either one that they choose from. So I would say to my son, would you like to have pizza or chicken nuggets for dinner? Both I had on hand. I wouldn't give him an option that I didn't have. I wouldn't say McDonald's if I didn't want to go to McDonald's, right? Those are the things that I would have control over, is the decisions and the options that I gave him were ones that were choices of really mine. And I was happy with either one that he chose. So I would give him those options and only two and limit them. So I would say, for example, do you want pizza or chicken nuggets? And he would decide between the two. Therefore, I was happy with the results that he chose, and he was happy with the dinner that he chose. And the same thing with bedtime or anything. I would say, now you can go to bed in 10 minutes or you can go to bed now. The outcome was something I was happy about, but it gave him the control and the independence, no matter how young he was pretty young in those days, that he would feel as though he had a stake in the game. And he would say, I want 10 more minutes. Very rarely did he say he wanted to go to bed now, but if he chose that, I was happy with that, or the 10 minutes, the pizza or the nuggets. Those were things that were important to me and to him, was to make sure that I gave him the tools to be a good decision maker, so that when he had life choices, roommates, partners, business associates, colleagues, that he wasn't the one in the room shrugging his shoulders saying, I don't know, I don't care, because I knew that he did know, and I knew that he did care, just like Meg did. Just like a lot of times when I chose Chinese over pizza and she wanted pizza, she was disappointed when Chinese came to the door or when we went to get it picked up. So those were things that she and I worked through, and that was her personality. She didn't want to make decisions that disappointed me. And Meg was she was different from me in a lot of ways, where she was often someone who was happy to come along, get along, if that makes sense. She wasn't the leader of the pack. She wasn't the social person of our group or of our house. It was me or someone else in the group that often led. But I knew that when Meg made a decision, that it would be right for her. And that was important. When we dated and we went out, Meg and I always made sure that we came home together. Whether we wanted to go home with somebody else or not, we never chose to. We always chose to have each other's back. And that was important. We had a little pact, as most roommates or friends do at that time in our lives. And that was important to us. And Meg was great about staying committed to the things that we discussed and that we handled together through that time of our lives. And so those were just differences. There were differences of how I made decisions and how I gathered facts and how she gathered facts. And when she finally met her man, who she's been married to for probably 30 years or so, it was a decision. I knew when she met somebody and she made a decision to be in a committed relationship with that person, that was going to be the person that she was going to be with for life, more than likely, because Meg didn't like change. She didn't like the discomfort of making a decision that might displease somebody or having it not be right. She didn't realize the importance of making the decision right for her. So those are things that come to me about making decisions, and those things that factors come in. I do it often as well. I look for things. I can flip a coin and say, do I want to do this or do that? I can Rochambeau with my son or with somebody else to try to make a decision. We can thumb wrestle. We can do lots of things in order to make a decision. But as long as we decide on making a decision and then move through the process of what happens after the decision. What happens once we make the decision? That's what's important for us as well, is to decide and to think about what happens. Now, there was a great movie in the 90s with Gwyneth Paltrow called The Sliding Door, and many of us are familiar with it. And it's one that stuck with me. It's It's been a long time since I have seen it, but I remember it having an impact on me when I have seen it. And it's a great reference during this. And the entire premise of the film rests on a small moment. It's whether she catches the train or she misses it. And from that moment, her life splits and the movie splits into two parallel timelines. One version of the story, she arrives at home earlier, discovers betrayal immediately, and pivots her life sooner than the other. She misses the train, arrives later, and the revelation unfolds more gradually as the viewers, and we're given as viewers, we see the advantage and the vantage point of seeing both timelines and what happens when the sliding door comes and we walk through it or it doesn't come. That was such an impactful movie. I thought it was just one of those great, well-written movies, well acted. I mean, it didn't win an Academy Award or any of those types of things. It wasn't acclaimed, but it was so thought-provoking for me. And I often use it, not every day, but every once in a while, as an example of what would happen if you chose differently. And if the timing changes and our awareness changes and the confidence and the opportunity in growth changes that come from each decision. So we look for those options about which version of our lives seems stronger. Which one of those lives, the train, is more fulfilling? And that movie is I wish that we could have that moment for ourselves, that we could just see both futures and both visions of our lives as we would have that opportunity to say, what happens if? And we have it played out in front of us as the movie did. What makes that movie so powerful is not the decision itself, it's the perspective that we're given, that we get to compare and have hindsight simultaneously. We do not have that in real life. We do not have the split screen, the picture ideal situation where we can see if we choose A, this happens, and if we choose B, this happens, and we get to watch our lives play out. We don't get that. In real life, we never, ever get that split screen. We never get to observe the version of ourselves of who we choose after the decision, and what decision we would choose differently if we did. So we don't get to have the advantage of the timeline. We don't get to see it unfold in a script, in a movie. We get to watch it unfold randomly on any given day of whatever decision we make. We get to experience the unexpected setbacks, the disappointment of people, the emotions of not only ourselves, but others, our reactions as well as theirs. We get to see what happens in real time. And that's what sounds scary. And that's what can be scary, is the unknown. But really, do you really want to know what happens? Do you really want to know what your life ends up as and how your future really plays out? Is that what we really want to know? Yeah, it'd be nice to know that our health stays sustainable and that we could win the lottery, or we are financially set or secure for our lives, or that our kids are healthy, or that we're healthy, or any of those things. Those would be great to know. But we have control over those things. We have control over our finances. We have control over our health. A lot of people don't think that we do, but we do, with what we eat, how active we are, and how we participate in our lives. We have control over those things. And so we have control over our future and our decisions. We shouldn't be frustrated because of the decisions that we make. They have to emerge and we have to decide on them. Yes, we have to gather facts. Yes, we have to do data points. We shouldn't procrastinate through them. We shouldn't look for everybody's opinion. I often have sat on committees, like we all have, or sat in meetings and had somebody sit around the table and decide where we're going to order lunch, or what we're going to do for a color scheme on something, or how we're going to spend our money, or a budget on things. And they go around the room when there's 13 to 15 to 10 or 8 people sitting at the room, and they want everybody's idea. And I think, oh, shouldn't we take what I learned or the simple thing that we do with our children and give them two options and do the same thing with this committee or this table or this decision around the food? We're never going to get consensus of everyone. We're just not. People have different opinions, they have different tastes, and they have different likes. So we're never going to have 13, 8 people, whatever it is, choose the same restaurant, choose the same menu, choose any of the same things. So we should give them options, and two options that we're happy with, right? That's how our life's decisions should maybe be applied, is that we don't know the outcome, but we know what our choices could bring us, right? We have to experience the doubts that would have appeared with whatever decision, because you can't see the end results. I wish we could. I wish we were all storytellers or fortune tellers or had our crystal ball in front of us. And some have those skills to maybe project or to tell us things through spiritual guides or through tarot cards or whatever their belief system is. And I love that service as well. But we don't have it every day. We just have to, in our minds, construct and be okay with the untested alternative, and be okay with things not being ideal and not being perfect and not being able to please everyone, and being okay with smoothing out things as we go along. Edges are going to be sharp after decisions. People's personalities can be sharp after decisions as well. And it highlights where we need to be more fluid and function better as adults and as people and as contributing members to whatever relationship it is. It reduces the complexity if we just chunk it out. If we say that a decision is a decision that we have to make right for us, as opposed to finding the right decision. So, what really exists in the film, back to that film, Sliding Doors, is that both timelines carry loss. Both required resilience, that's for sure. Neither eliminated discomfort if you watch the movie. Both were pretty painful, just delayed in one situations. The difference was the vantage point. When you compared your life that you lived in imperfect reality to what we imagined as the alternative, that never gets tested, right? We don't have the split screen. We don't have the sliding door metaphor that we can have in our own lives. We have to imagine the path always cleaner, not because it would have been cleaner, but because we never had to carry the weight of not being able to make the decision. The decision has to be made, whether it's leaving the job, the relationship, the situation, the house, the community, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be leaving, it could be staying. It could be, should I stay or should I go from any situation? If you're uncomfortable and things don't serve you anymore, you have to figure out what happens if you don't have them in your life, whether it be a job, finances, a child, not leaving a child, but making changes within their growth that helps you along your growth as well. So you can't eliminate decisions. You can't freeze because you're afraid of change or you don't want it. That's just stagnation. That's being stuck. Yes, people do that. They stay that way for a long time. They say that mediocre is fine and maybe their life is okay as it is and their partner is good, but is it good enough? Again, back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, is happy enough enough? And shouldn't we strive for satisfaction? And again, when I was talking about grace and Wendy was talking about delight, aren't those two different things? And shouldn't we strive for something that is more meaningful for us than just being known as graceful, as I always try? So it reminds us in the movie that we can try to compare what our life would be like after a decision, after that reality happens, A or B, but we can't just be frozen in just that vision of it. We have to move forward into that vision. We have to move forward into one of those options, because the comparison of them, the sliding door, like the movie, it's fictional. And after we make the decision, there's usually that initial phase of relief. Once we make the decision, our shoulders drop and our body feels settled, maybe, but now the real work happens. We have to do it. Even if the choice is difficult, the action itself can be stabilizing. We feel lighter as we move through the decision because at least we've made one, because we're no longer suspended in just the evaluation, in the data gathering, in the fact finding. Yes, those can be great and exciting times as we gather those data and we learn and we grow and all that. But once we have it, it's ready to do something. Then doubt may surface and we may question, okay, am I really ready for it? And the answer, you're never going to get a yes, you're ready for it today at 2 o'clock. The answer is yes, you're ready for it. You can handle and you can adapt and you can function no matter what happens, right? I've always thought about that. I never want to look at my life and be afraid of the future. Yeah, things can be scary, unknown, health, situations, relationships, all those things can be unsettling. But whatever happens with whatever situation, I know that I'm strong enough, healthy enough, wise enough, mature enough to be able to deal with whatever happens and whatever consequence or whatever actions I have to take. That's what makes it important, is that I have self-trust and that I know that no matter what comes my way, I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to push and grow through it. I'm going to make more decisions and more actions because I have to. I have to be a contributing member of my own life. It's important that I do that. It's important as a mother that I teach my son to do that, that I don't want him to lie in bed and be afraid of change or be afraid of making decisions or be afraid of anything, really. I want him to know that he has all the tools that he needs in order to make those decisions. And if he needs more tools, we'll help him get more tools. We'll help him fill his toolbox with different things, and so that he can function and he can pivot and adapt. And that's what's important. Someone once said to me about pivoting and adapting is that some people can't, that some people don't know how to. And I think that that's just fear. I think everything comes down to two emotions: love and fear. I think there was a church that I've gone to for years, Science in the Mind, and it's about positive thinking, and it's about changing your mind and changing your life. And part of their philosophy was just that we as individuals are in charge of our own destiny. And it was so powerful that if people woke up every single day, or someone, I shouldn't say people, not a collective unit, but if someone woke up every single day and they thought, oh, I'm getting sick, here comes the cold, I feel I'm not going to feel well today, by golly, by the time noontime comes around, I bet they start having symptoms of some kind of illness or some kind of back pain or something that limits them, because they put their mind into the intention that that's going to happen. So mind over matter, right? Change your thoughts, change your life. That was the segment or the philosophy around this church, which was very empowering. It was about collective mind and all of us having a universal consciousness with each other. And that if someone needed our help through prayer, they didn't, whatever we called it, a God, a feeling, or whatever it was, if we all came together and thought positively about the situation, then positive things would occur because we're all putting the right energy into it, right? People in my life have often said that I'm the hopeful optimist. And I hope that that's true, because I always want to look at things as though things are on the bright side of things. I mean, if you go through life thinking that everything is doom and gloom, by golly, they're going to be doom and gloom. You're going to find doom and gloom in everything. I have friends that often, one friend that they don't like their birthday. They don't even like to talk about it. They want it to go by without anybody acknowledging it. And I think, what a shame, what a missed opportunity to really let somebody shine on them. And I go overboard on their birthday, because not because they don't want to, but because I think any life worth living is a life worth celebrating. I love my birthday. I love it. It's in July. I love the whole month of July. I think that it's probably very appropriate that I was born in that month. I love the season. I love the heat. I love the whole patriotism aspect of 4th of July. I love everything about it. When July 1st comes, love it. I celebrate it every day. I celebrate every day anyway, but July to me is just the perfect time of year. And then it just so happens that my birthday is right smack dab in the middle of it. And that makes it even more powerful. I don't need a big celebration. I don't need a big party. I don't even need acknowledgement on my birthday other than from me, that I know that I'm so happy to be part of this world and part of this life, part of my son's life, and part of being a contributing member to everything around me, right? That's what's important, is that we try to make decisions every day of how we can contribute and how we can evolve and grow. And I have clients that are very resistant to change, very stubborn, and they often use that as an excuse that I don't like to change. I don't want to change. I'm afraid of change. Well, change is going to happen whether they want it or not. And in some form, it's going to happen. Whether they're resistant to growth or evolution, it's still going to come. It's still going to cycle back. We're going to have those aha moments continually, and those lessons continually coming at us every single moment, not daily or not every single second, but those moments are going to come to us and say, why do I keep meeting the same people? Why do I keep learning the same lessons? What do I have to get through every single day? Why is the car never running? Why is this always happening? Why is that always happening? Why can't I get ahead of things? It's because we're not moving through those situations in a different way. So they're always going to come at us, whether it be relationships or jobs or colleagues or friends, partners, or whatever it is. They're going to come at us in the same way until we change how we react to them and how we decide to self-respect and self-trust that we can do things differently. When they come at us and they want to try to start something, whether it be a new project, a new situation, possibly a new fight, whatever it is, a new topic that still brings up the same old feelings, until we change the way we react or don't react to it, it's always going to happen, right? Those things are always going to surface. So there are lots of things. I've used them as well. I've done Rochambeau. I kid my son all the time about making decisions around flipping a coin, heads or tails, eeny, meeny, miny, all of the things that we did as kids to do it. The crazy eight is perfect when we shake the ball and we ask a question: should I go? Should I leave this job? Should I leave this relationship? And the little triangle floats to the top and says, hazy answer, try again. And we shake it again, and it says something to the effect of, the answer is unclear, try again. It keeps giving us information that really tells us through the crazy eight and all those mechanisms that the decision is ours to make. It's not through some toy store purchase or those kinds of things, or activities such as flipping a coin. Yes, they can do those things. Flipping a coin is the easiest ones, because no matter what, there's only two options again: heads or tails. Which one do you want? Those are the things that we have to decide upon. And when the answer comes up and it's tails, then we're on defense, right? And that's what we do. Or we choose the side of the field instead of having the ball. Those are things that are important, but at least it's a decision. And those things, you might find yourself wondering, what would have happened if you had chosen differently? If you didn't have the option of heads or tails, and you just had the option of A or B, and instead of A, you chose B. You try to compare what B would bring you over what you have now, say C. So if I live in the world of C and I want to move to A or B, I have to gather those facts. I have to look at the current experience of C, figure out what happens if I choose A, and figure out what happens if I choose B. But I still have to gather facts, but then the decision is mine to make. I do it with care and compassion and kindness, of course. And with as much self-trust and self-respect and self-assurance that I possibly can, but with the understanding that I still need to adapt, pivot, and grow through every other thing that's going to happen once the decision's made, through every outcome that that brings, every visible success or challenge that comes from choosing, for example, A or B. I have to move through those things. And yeah, we're going to still have challenges. We're going to still have successes with those. We're going to be pleased some days with the decision we make, and we're going to be displeased with the decision that we make. We're going to be confident, and some days we're going to be afraid. All those things are growth. We don't just make a decision and not grow from it or with it. We have to grow with it. So again, the perfect thing to think about is that we're not trying to make the right decision. So powerful. We're not trying to make the right decision. We're trying to make the decision right for us. And that is so true. I think that is just the biggest aha moment that I've had probably in 6 months that I've heard, because I was a person trying to gather facts on making a decision, asking friends, asking family members, asking advisors, those types of things. What would happen if, asking the checklist, having the list, going back and forth, doing this, doing that. And I thought, why am I trying so hard to find the round peg that fits in this specific round hole when I have to make it, when I have to make the decision right for me? That's what was important. Was there was no clear answer. There's no clear answer on whether you're going to leave a job for another job, and that new job is going to give you everything you thought was possible plus more. No, you have to work at those things. You have to create that job to make it what you want it to be. You have to show up every day. You have to do the things that you need to do. You have to be responsible for the task and the job at hand. Just like in relationships, you can't look at those and say, well, the relationship I had with Meg 30 years ago or 35 years ago, that it still would work today. Sure, her and I are great. We love each other. We shared a lot of great memories over those 4 years and through the last 30 years, certainly. But we both have grown. I don't need to live with her every single day anymore. And in order to experience her life, we can pick up the phone and talk or text or just see each other over a certain time frame, over a weekend or over lunch, and just reconnect again. It's not something that just because it worked 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 30 days ago, that it's going to work now. I have clients often tell me about their relationships, and they often define their partners as good or nice. And I think those are great terms. I absolutely, again, as a parent, looking back, those are the first probably things we say to our child, right? We say, be good, be nice, keep your hands to yourself, be good. No, that's bad. Put that down. Be good. We give them again two options, right? Nice or not, mean, nice or mean, or good or bad, right? So we want them to choose the more positive one. So often my clients tell me, well, my partner's good. And I say, well, tell me what that means to you. And they don't know what it means to them. Or they say, well, they're always there. Is being always there important for you? What does that mean when they're always there? That they're always in the house, that that they're never going to stray, that they're always there because they don't have their own life, they don't have their own hobbies, they don't have their own friends, they don't have their own personality, they don't have their own structure, critical thinking, decision making, those types of things. And when it comes down to it, what is nice about it, or what is good about it, is that they maybe feel safe because it's something that they've known. It's a familiar relationship. It's habit driven or habit formed. And yeah, they may be happy enough. They may be good enough, but are they good for them. That's what I ask my clients often when they come in and they tell me about their partners and their partners being good. I often listen a lot to what good means to them. And then I ask them, is that good enough? Is that really sustainable? Is that the partner that you want to grow with? And will that partner encourage your growth? Is that something that you want to choose? And that's really when the aha moment starts for them. And I'm not here to end any relationships. I'm here to make relationships better. And the most important relationship I can make better is my clients with themselves. Just like my relationship, it's better when I'm better for and with myself than I am with anyone else. If I'm not feeling up for it or feeling 100% or even above 50%, how can I contribute healthy enough in a relationship around me, with my son if I'm sick, if with a partner if I'm sick or not feeling well or emotionally not stable at that time? So it's important for me to realize, and for all of us and my clients to realize, that it's okay to not be okay for a short period of time, and to just say, I'm going to work on being okay. I'm going to work on understanding what good means to me and how that affects my life, and nice, and those types of maybe minimal kind of terms or emotions have how we describe people in our lives, people that we share our everyday house, decisions, children, lifestyle, any of those things, people we work with. Yeah, I could have a nice boss. They could be good, but does that mean that they're encouraging my growth? That they're going to allow me to have a promotion? That they're going to give me a raise? That they're going to increase my knowledge base within my skill set and challenge me so that I can move up if that's what I want to do? I don't know. Those are things that we have to ask and we have to choose, and we have to take responsibility and look. I think as society, we often are judging or looking, I should say the word judge, looking at people like, what's trending, what's now, what is everybody else doing? And it's more important that we look at ourselves and think about how we're doing and how we're participating and how we can be better contributing members to our own lives, and how we can create the next generation of better decision makers and better contributors and better household members and better life partners. Those things are important. So it's not about us and our collective unit. It's about us as in me, and how I could do it better for myself. Because if I'm functioning better for myself, again, I'm functioning better for those around me. I can't be a good mom if I'm not 100% attentive to him, or if I'm not meeting his needs as he tells me he has them, or if I'm competing with something or trying to do 1,000 things, as we all try to do as moms and household and female corporate executives. And there's so much that we try to handle as life partners and as managers of everything, managers of our lives, managers of our jobs, managers of relationships, managers of everything, households. And sometimes you can't manage other things until you manage yourself. And I think that's what's important, is that you're energized not by the decision, which is very powerful and impactful, certainly, is that you've made one, but you're energized by the movement of them. You're optimistic because you're finally doing something, because you're thinking about yourself and what needs to happen next. Instead of thinking about what could go wrong, you're thinking about what could go right. Instead of being afraid of change, maybe staying stubborn and resistive to them, you think about how exciting they can be. What kind of growth, what kind of opportunity, new people, new things, new challenges, everything, new possibilities are out there. Then the reality sits in, and we always try to just figure out the trade-off. What becomes visible to us? What's the downside of what sliding door we take, or when we walk through something? What we overanalyze and overthink and overprocess things. And I think that we sometimes just have to decide after we gather facts. Again, I'm not advocating for rash decisions or quick decisions, especially life-changing ones. I'm talking about things that we balance and that we choose to stay in a relationship or to stay in a job or stay in a community and have those difficult conversations and not disappear into fear, because those are things, again, I go back to two emotions. And if we all just really scrape away everything else, all the ego, all the stubbornness, all the anger, all the angst of everything, and we just look at things of why people and ourselves do things. Is it out of love or out of fear? And that really is the two things. Why are we deciding to, start a fight with somebody, ground our child instead of working through our problem, being angry with a coworker, not participating in a situation or in a relationship that we could be, trying to control or manipulate things? It's probably because we're afraid of things. It's probably because we're afraid to see ourselves in a different way, in a different light. And if we choose, and I choose, and you choose, and we choose together, how powerful that can be. We choose love as the emotion that we're going to make decisions with, then we're so prepared to launch into something new, something uncertain that doesn't always have the direct outcome, but at least it can be fulfilling, and we can do it with confidence and with purpose, and we can do it with a choice that requires energy and stamina and critical thinking and joy and delight, as Wendy would say. And we don't have to do a decision or move through doors or gates or whatever the term is of the time with panic or discomfort or with unsteadiness. Even if we don't know the outcome, we can still choose to assume that no matter what comes at us, with confidence, we can face it, and we can face it with love and with presence and with perseverance and resilience and with the utmost respect and grace of ourselves and with others and with alignment. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to disappoint people and to, more importantly, not react to their reaction. That's the most powerful thing that we can do. One of them, anyway, is just have an honest evaluation of how we're progressing with people around us and with people through love instead of fear. And when we watch somebody that we love react with fear, that we don't match their fear. We don't match their fear with more fear. That just is like a brush fire starting to be a forest fire. That's just uh, dangerous, put it that way, when we add to the fear of someone else with our own fear. But if we add with love, if we temper down and damper down their fear with love, with reassurance, with confidence and support, with care and compassion, that whatever they're afraid of, even if it's our change, that we're going to be okay, and so are they. That yes, there may be some discomfort of changing a job, a community, a relationship, a church, a circle of support. Yes, those things may create some discomfort and some fear. But if we look at them and guide ourselves with love, we'll be so much better off. And those are things that if we go to our child and we say, I understand you're afraid, but we're going to work through this together. and we're going to work through it with love, and we're going to be here together to make sure that you have all the tools that you need, just like I have all the tools that I need. We're going to push through this, and we're going to get through it stronger and with a lot more love. And that's what we can do with any relationship, whether we're changing a job and we can leave and burn a bridge, certainly when we leave a job and never talk to anybody after we leave and hold a grudge, or we can keep in touch with those people, network, still inspire them and inspire their growth. And so those are important things. So think about decision making, and I'll leave you with this again, because again, I think it's so powerful. It's about making decisions that are right for us instead of the right decision. So I'll leave you with that today. So thank you very much for showing up here today for yourself. And I appreciate your listening. Of course, I thank you for it. And until next time, I hope you keep chasing your purpose. I appreciate you very much.